Welcome! In the following video, we're going to make a demonstration of all the features that Brickcontrol includes. To do so, we're going to go through an example from end to end, taking into account the most important and relevant features of the program. The first thing we're going to do is create an estimate. So we're going to access to a module called Projects. In the project screen, on the upper left side, we can see the Estimate submodule. We're going to click on it. To create a new estimate, we're going to write the name we want to assign to it in the field next to the plus sign under the name column. In this case, we're going to name it Demo Brickcontrol. Then, we're going to press Tab on the keyboard or simply go through each column by clicking on them. The next step is to indicate the company that's in charge of the project. After that, we have to select the cost control estimate and the certification estimate. If the cost control estimate and the certification estimate are different, we can select different estimates from the drop-down menu. It may happen that certain companies need to use different estimates, or they might need to get paid in a different way, whether they need to send their client an estimate that is different from the certification estimate, or simply because they work in different currencies. Note that the estimate currency can't be changed, as it is set by default to the currency we have indicated when we created the company to which we have assigned the project. On the other hand, the certification currency can be changed if needed. Finally, we have the code column, which is optional. If we want to, we can complete it. Otherwise, we simply click the Save button and the project is automatically created with an internal code. For example, 11,037. In case we want to change that code, we simply click on the field under the code column and type any code we want. As we can see, if we don't type anything, a code is automatically assigned to the project. Once we have created the project, we double-click on it and we can see the different type of estimates: the cost control estimate, the objective estimate, and the offer estimate. As you may have noticed, there's a green check mark next to one of the estimates under the cost control column and under the certification column. What is it for? Well, this check mark indicates the estimate that is currently being used for cost control and for certification. If the cost control and the certification estimate were different, then the checkmark would appear assigned to two different estimates simultaneously. Additionally, we can indicate the amount of decimal places we want to include in the budget or in regards to the expenses and sales, as well as other type of simple settings. What's next? We're going to access to the control estimate by double-clicking on it. The first thing we're going to do is to import a budget that we can work with. This is very important since we need to have information in order to be able to go through with this detailed example. Let's not forget that in Brickcontrol it is essential to have a budget, whether you create it, import it, or you copy and paste the data from a database. It is the starting point of many processes. To proceed with the import process, we're going to click on the Import button. We have to select the format of the file we intend to import, which can be Excel or BC3. Then, we click the Browse button in order to select the file stored in the computer. In this case, we're going to import the Buena Vista project in BC3 format. Automatically, the size of the file is displayed, and once we click the Import button, we can see the progress percentage as well. Once the import has been completed successfully, we can see a pop-up window in which we should click the Accept button. Now, we can see the way budgets are structured in Brickcontrol. In this example, we have different levels or chapters. Inside of each level, we can have different tasks as seen in this example, since we are using a simpler version of an estimate. However, we could have different sub-levels depending on the complexity of the estimate. In Brickcontrol, we can create up to 5 types of sub-levels seamlessly. Inside each sub-level, we can create other divisions or tasks, and then inside each task, we can add a new resource, such as labor, equipment, material, and general expenses. We can assign a unit price to each task if we have agreed upon a unit price contract with our client. Once we have established the cost per unit and the quantities of any given task, we will automatically get the total cost as the software multiplies the cost per unit by the quantities we have indicated. Let's create a new level to see how it is done in Brickcontrol. We're going to return to the previous screen, and once we're there, we're going to create a new chapter or level. We press right-click and select the option New Division from the menu. Let's suppose we want to create a division called Paint. So we write down the name, press Enter, and the level is created automatically. Be aware that in the total cost column, we put 0 instead of any other value, as the total cost of a division depends on the tasks that have been added to that division. Therefore, if we don't add any task to a division, the default value is automatically set to 0. By the time we start adding new tasks to a division, the total cost column and the total sale price will update automatically. We're going to double-click on the Paint division in order to access to it so that we can start creating new subdivisions. How can we create a new subdivision? Well, we simply press right-click and select the New Division option from the menu. In this case, we're going to name it Indoor Paint. We can also create another subdivision named Outdoor Paint. As you can see, we can create subdivisions inside of each division seamlessly. Now we can start creating tasks. Although we can create tasks directly here, for this particular example, we're going to access the Indoor Paint subdivision so that we create the tasks inside the subdivision. We press right-click and select the New Task option from the menu. Before we go any further, let's take a minute to discuss price databases. We can easily access to the price database submodule in the left side of the screen inside the project module in order to access to a price database to use as a reference. As you can see, in this case we have a price database that is quite complete. We can check out each division and its subdivisions and whether there are tasks inside each one of them or not. For example, let's suppose we want to copy a whole division or task or resource from the price database we're using as reference in order to add the information to our estimate. We simply go to the Paint division and select the item we want to copy. If we want to copy more than one item, we should press the Control key on the keyboard while clicking on the items we want to add. Once we have selected the items we intend to copy, we have to press right-click and select the Copy option from the menu, and then head to our estimate, press right-click and select the Paste option. A pop-up window will appear asking whether we also want to paste measurements or not. In this case, we're going to select Yes, and automatically we get the two tasks. As you can see, the tasks can be created directly from the Estimate screen by right-clicking and selecting a new task, or we can simply go to a price database and copy the items we need. It is worth mentioning that we can copy resources as well, the same way we have copied tasks. In this case, we have White Paint and Official Worker 1. If we head to our Estimate and access to the Kitchen Paint division, we also have the information related to White Paint and Official Worker 1, since we copied the task along with its resources. Keep in mind that we can add any type of resource by simply pressing right-click, New Resource, and selecting one option from the drop-down menu. For example, we can choose labor, equipment, material, or general expenses. If we want to add another type of paint, we have two methods to do so. For example, we can press the oval button next to the field under the code column and look for a different type of paint inside our estimate. As you can see, the current estimate option is selected. but we could also look for an item within the price databases. If we select the price database option and look for paint, automatically all the items that contain the word paint are listed. In this case, the search returned the following results: white paint, yellow paint, and painter. We're going to select yellow paint by double-clicking on it. So, which information has been added? The cost price of the paint, the description, the code, and the units of measurements. But note that the quantity column is set to 0, as the amount of paint we will need to paint a square meter of the kitchen will depend on the type of paint and its coverage. Keep in mind that we are completing the information regarding the task kitchen paint and its cost per unit. In this case, the unit of the task is square meters. So if we indicate in the quantity column 0.075, automatically the total cost of the item is calculated. Also, it is added to the total cost of the task. If we want to add an assistant so that the work can be done faster, we simply have to press right-click and select the New Resource option from the menu and then the Labor option. Afterwards, we click on the oval icon next to the field under the code column and a pop-up window will appear. As you may have noticed, it's the same window we saw a few minutes ago, but in this case, we're going to select the Current Estimate option to look for an assistant within our estimate. We write down the word assistant and press the magnifying glass icon. Once the search results appear, we're going to double-click on the assistant item that has appeared on list so that we can add it to the estimate. Keep in mind that in this case, we have imported the information from the estimate since we already had created an assistant in our estimate, and that's the reason we were able to import it. Moving on, we're going to complete the quantity column of the assistant item. We're going to assign the value 0.200. The cost price is set to 12, but we can change it if we want to. Be aware of the fact that if we change the value in the cost price column that has been assigned to the assistant, this change will affect each item of the project in which we have added the assistant. If we take a look at the total cost column of the kitchen paint division, the sum of all the items is 13.10. This means that each unit of kitchen paint will cost 13.10 euros. So, what is the amount of square meters we should indicate? Well, we should indicate the number of square meters of the kitchen. In this case, let's suppose it's 50. What happens then? Automatically, Brickcontrol multiplies the total cost per unit from the kitchen paint division by the number of square meters we intend to paint. As a result, the total cost has changed to 655. Moving on to the living room division, if we take a look at the value in the cost price column, we can notice that the value indicated corresponds to a fixed price since it's written in red font. What does fixed price mean in Brickcontrol? It means either that we didn't add resources to the division or that the resources we have added are disabled. For example, if we go back to the kitchen paint division, which did indeed contain resources, and we manually changed the cost price and instead of 13.10 we indicate 15, automatically the font of the value changes to red to indicate it is a fixed price, and therefore the cost price of each resource has been disabled. In case we want to remove a fixed price value, we have to right-click on the item and select the option Remove Fixed Price, and then the previous value appears. Keep in mind that if we delete this other value, automatically it will change to 0 since we haven't added any resource to the living room paint division. Therefore, we're going to maintain the fixed price we had initially indicated. Remember that there are two different ways of creating an estimate. we can either have each task with its associated costs itemized, or we can simply indicate the cost price per task. We're going to write 30 in the quantity column, and we get the total cost automatically, which has been updated to 300. If we take a look at the total cost of the indoor paint division, we can see now it says 955. Also, if we go back to the paint division, which contains the indoor paint and outdoor paint divisions, the total cost of the paint division is 955. Moving forward, let's suppose we want to add or change a value in the sale price column. Let's access to the indoor paint division. As you can see, the kitchen paint's sale price has been set to 20. However, we can change it for example, to 15. And in the living room division, we can indicate 12 or 13 as sale price. As a result, the values in the total sale price column update automatically, since Brickcontrol multiplies the sale price by the quantity. As seen in previous examples, the total sale price of the indoor paint division has been updated too. Clearly, the sum of the sale price of each item gives us the total sale price of the division named indoor paint. To sum up, we can implement this method, or we can increase the sale price in relation to a certain percentage of the cost price. Let's see how this feature works. First, we're going to go back and access to the concrete chapter of our budget. Then we're going to click on the Options button in the upper ribbon next to the print icon and click on the Adjust Sale Price option. As you can see, we have different alternatives available in the menu. If we select the option Current Level Only, a new window will appear in which we are asked to insert a markup rate. Let's suppose we want to apply 20% profit on cost price. We write 20, click Accept, and automatically the total sale price is completed in all the tasks of this specific level of the budget according to this specification. Also, we can use the Adjust Sale Price option and choose instead the Entire Estimate alternative. If we select the Entire Estimate option, a new window will appear showing different alternatives, such as percentage, total sale price, markup amount, etc. Let's suppose we want to insert a markup amount. So we write 500,000 euros. Click Accept, and automatically the total sale price is completed in all the levels of the budget according to this specification. Additionally, the total sale price of our budget has been updated to 4,877,690.92 euros. That means the value in the total price column is 500,000 euros higher than the one in the total cost column. It is important to mention that the 500,000 euros will be allocated not only within the different levels of the budget, but also within the tasks inside each level, regardless of the value or percentage we have indicated. So the changes will affect our entire budget. We can check this out by going to the indoor paint level in which we had previously indicated the sale price for the following tasks: kitchen paint and living room paint. The kitchen paint sale price had been set to 20, while the living room paint sale price had been set to 12 or 13. However, those values have been overwritten according to the specifications we have indicated when we use the Adjust Sale Price tool. Therefore, we recommend you to make the global adjustments first and then carry out the smaller and more specific adjustments. As you can see, it's pretty simple to implement the adjustments. If we want to add more information to our budget, we head to the Additional Charges button on the colored ribbon located on the upper part of the screen. A pop-up window will appear in which we can indicate the additional information that we want to incorporate on the final page of our estimate, such as the total sale price. Let's suppose we want to create a new line. To do so, we click on the New Line button and then write General Expenses under the Description column. Moving on to the Operation column, we can see a drop-down menu which contains several options. We're going to select the percentage option. Though you might be wondering, which value are we going to use as a reference to apply this percentage to? Well, we're going to apply the percentage to the first line, and the amount of the percentage will be 10. Since the value indicated on the total column of the first line is 4,877,710.92 euros, the 10% of that number is 487,771.09 euros, which is the same number that appears on the total column of the line we have just added. What are we going to do next? We're going to create a new line to add those values up in order to get the total amount that we're going to send to our client. So we click the New Line button again at the description, then select the plus sign in the Operation column, since we're going to sum the values from the first and second line. Finally, we complete the remaining information in the columns line 1 and line 2. As you can see, the total column of the third line has been automatically updated according to the settings we have just established. Remember that we can add as many lines as we want to refer to different things, such as discounts, etc. Though it is important to keep in mind that the ultimate line should be used to indicate the tax regime. In this case, it's the third line. The tax can be set to 21%, for example, or we can press the magnifying glass icon and look for a different value such as 15, 16, 18, and so on. We're going to select 18%. Automatically, Brickcontrol adds the tax space and the tax to obtain the estimate total. Finally, in the tax description field, we're going to write additional charges. Then press the Save button and that's it. We get the final page. Once we have completed our budget, we are ready to print it. In order to do so, we're going to press the Print button located on the colored ribbon. As you can see, we have different templates to choose from. There are standard templates which have been incorporated to Brickcontrol by default. But also, there are personalized templates available which have been created from other templates that were edited. For the sole purpose of this example, we're going to print a basic template. In this case, we can visualize basic information such as the chapters or divisions, the tasks, the total sale price, etc. But what's missing? Clearly, what's missing is the final page we have just created so that we can send it to our client attached to the estimate. The thing is, we have to print our budget first. In this case, we're going to use a basic template. But remember, you can customize it by changing the color scheme, adding the logo of your company, or you can simply change the template in order to use one that contains detailed information. We're going to close this window, and in order to visualize the final page, we're going to go back to the Print menu and select the Additional Charges template. Once we have pressed the Print button, we can visualize the final page, which contains a summary of all the different chapters, the total cost, the general expenses, and the tax regime. The next step would be to send these documents to our client. Once our client has approved the documents, the execution process begins. After that, we will start with the planning. So the idea is to start planning the tasks that have been added to the estimate. We're going to head to the project module and access to the planning submodule. As you can see, we've been redirected to the new version of Brickcontrol available on the web browser. In this screen, we can visualize all the planning we've created so far of each one of our projects. We're going to access to the demo Brickcontrol planning. Automatically, the planning is displayed. How is the planning created? It is created based on the tasks that have been indicated in the budget. If we take a closer look, we can see the information in regards to each level and the tasks associated to them. We can make any modifications we might consider appropriate, either in the Gantt chart or in the listed tasks. For example, we can extend the length of this particular task to indicate that it lasts longer than the length Brickcontrol had initially estimated by default. Also, we can create restriction rules. For example, we can indicate that the task permits won't start on a specific date. Instead, it will start once the project coordination task has been completed. We can change the start date of the tasks as well. We can indicate that the task Load and Haul Site Demolition Debris will start on Monday instead of Friday. The alterations we have just done in the Gantt chart can be done as well in the spreadsheet in which the tasks are listed. For example, in the duration column, we can change the value to 2 days. Or we can select this other task and indicate that its actual duration will be 15 hours instead of 8. What other type of things can be done in the planning module? Well, we can visualize the critical path of the construction project, which can be enabled by sliding the View Critical Tasks button. By doing so, the critical tasks will be indicated in red, as well as the line that represents the end of the project. Additionally, we can visualize which are the tasks that necessarily have to be completed in time. You might be wondering, which is the specific time in which these tasks should be completed? Well, it depends on the length of the task demo Brickcontrol. Among the features that Brickcontrol offers, there's a tool that allows us to automatically create the baseline according to the planned goal. Also, the information can be exported to Excel or MS Project, and we can create different versions of the planning too. This way, we can create an initial planning and then create a new version to make alterations according to the progress of the project. Once we have finished the planning, the following phase consists in carrying out the resource analysis. We go to the project module and then access to the resource analysis submodule in the panel located on the left side of the screen. We press the Open icon and select the Demo Brickcontrol project. Afterwards, we're going to press the Analyze Resources button located on the colored ribbon in the upper part of the screen next to the Refresh button. Automatically, all the needed resources are calculated. This feature lists all the tasks that don't have resources assigned to them, as well as all the needed resources such as materials, labor, machinery, etc. Let's suppose we want to visualize only the materials. We can filter the information by pressing on the resource option in the upper part of the screen, and a drop-down menu will appear in which we can select the type of resource we want to display on the screen. For example, we can see that we need 5 units of white paint and that the cost per unit should be 11 euros. If we click on the resource to open the drop-down menu, we will be able to see detailed information related to the resource, such as the division of the estimate in which this resource is needed, as well as the specific task associated to the resource. Let's take a look at another resource. For example, concrete. We can see that the resource is going to be needed for the task pad footing, which belongs to the concrete division. In both examples, the resources are going to be used only in one task. However, it could happen that resources will be needed for many tasks. So, why is the Analyze Resources feature useful? If we want to modify a cost price in this screen, we can do it and automatically the price will change in the estimate as well. It's important to keep in mind that this information will be extremely useful for the procurement of materials and resources in order to avoid deviations in regards to price or quantities. The next step is to create the purchase order. But before we move forward, remember we can export the information from the resource analysis by pressing right-click. This might come in handy when we need to request prices to different suppliers. Once we have chosen the supplier that better meets our needs, we can proceed to create the purchase orders. To do so, we have to go to the Warehouses module and then access to the Purchase Order submodule and press the New button. We're going to complete the fields with the requested information, such as the company in charge of the project, the supplier to whom we are going to acquire the resources from, etc. Let's look for a supplier by pressing the magnifying glass icon. We can select, for example, BBC Inc., and some fields will be completed automatically. Then, we should complete the remaining information, such as the number of the purchase order, the date in which the purchase order will be placed, among others. It isn't mandatory to complete the payment method field, as we can complete it later on when we add the purchase invoice to Brickcontrol. Also, we can indicate the type of purchase order by pressing the magnifying glass icon. A pop-up window will appear. In this case, we're going to select the material option. In the delivery section, it is worth mentioning that there's an option named Delivery in Project, which is very important. This option allows us to indicate whether the material will be delivered directly on site or not. If the material will be delivered to a different location, we leave the field blank. Let's pretend that we want to have this material delivered in a demo Brickcontrol project. So we select it and automatically the delivery address information has been completed. Additionally, the field next to the name of the project that we're going to associate this purchase order to has been enabled. And we can choose different options from the drop-down menu. If we choose the warehouse option, it means that the demo Brickcontrol project has physical space to store the material in order to use it later. How can we use it later? It's easy. We have to transfer inventory between locations, in this case from the warehouse to the project. Keep in mind that if we choose the warehouse option, the cost isn't allocated to the project yet. Instead, if we choose the project option, the cost is allocated to it. Suppose that we want to purchase different materials and we decide to deliver some of them to the project and others to another location. To do so, we simply have to specify in each line the allocation for each item of the purchase order. In the lower section of the screen, you can see different tabs. The first one is called Lines. If we want to create a purchase order that contains different items, previously you should have created those items in Brickcontrol. Once we have created the items, we're going to click on the magnifying glass icon next to the field located under the Item column. A pop-up window will appear in which we can look for any of the items we have created. In this case, we're going to select Iron. We can indicate any amount we want, for example, 15 kilograms. And let's suppose the cost per kilogram is 30 euros. In the taxes field, we're going to select 18%. In the allocation column, there's a drop-down menu in which we can choose whether we want to allocate the cost to the project warehouse, to the company warehouse or to the staff. The company warehouse option also refers to the warehouses our company has in each of our branches. For example, we can have a warehouse in our company Smith & Sons, or we can have a warehouse in a different location to which we want to send the material to. Finally, the staff option is used when we want to indicate that we're going to hand over this item to an employee. For example, we can hand over safety glasses, safety helmets, or safety boots, etc. Moving forward with our case study, we're going to select the New York branch of the company Smith & Sons as the company's warehouse to which we're going to allocate the materials to. Let's suppose that now we want to allocate another item to the project instead. We're going to add the white paint item and indicate 3 units under the quantity column. We're going to set the cost of each unit to 12 euros. In the tax field, we're going to choose 18%, and in the allocation column, we're going to select the project option. By doing so, a pop-up window appears in which we have to select the project we want to allocate the item to. In this case, we're going to choose Demo Brickcontrol. If we want to make the allocation more accurate, we can indicate detailed information such as the level, task, and resource from the Demo Brickcontrol project to which we're going to allocate the item to. For example, we can select the indoor paint division, then the kitchen paint task, and finally the white paint resource. As a result, we're going to be able to compare information in terms of chapters or divisions, tasks, and resources. However, if we delete this information and only indicate the project to which we want to allocate the item to, that's okay as well. The only difference between both methods is that if we don't add detailed information, we won't be able to make the comparison. Another option would be to indicate the project and the resource. We're going to look for the white paint resource and press Accept. Automatically, the line has been added according to the specifications we have just indicated in the dialog box. Keep in mind that we can add as many lines as we want to. At the bottom of the screen, there's a field named Total Sum in which we can visualize the total cost of the purchase order. If we go to the Taxes tab, we can see the detailed information in regards to the taxes. In this case, since we chose 18% for both items, there's only one line. Nevertheless, if we had indicated 2 different types of tax, we would visualize 2 lines instead. As you can see, there are other tabs such as the Comments tab, Extension tab, and Additional Data tab. In the Additional Data tab, we can indicate information such as delivery type, packing type, delivery address, payment method, etc. Since we have completed our purchase order, we're going to press the Save button located in the colored ribbon. Once we have saved the purchase order, we're going to proceed to print it. To do so, we're going to press the print icon in the colored ribbon and a pop-up window will appear. We're going to select Template from the list by pressing the magnifying glass icon. And we choose, for example, the basic template. Then we press the print button. Now we have the document that we're going to send to the supplier we have chosen, which in this case it's BBC Inc. The supplier has to deliver the items on the date we have indicated in the purchase order. However, we can change the delivery date if we want to. Let's suppose we want to switch the delivery date to the 26th of September. All we have to do is change the date in the calendar, press the Save button and print the purchase order again. What's the next step? We're going to head to the Revenue Expenses module and select the Expenses submodule to open the drop-down menu in order to access to the Reception of Materials option. We're going to click on the New button in the colored ribbon to proceed with the reception of materials. we're going to complete the information in accordance with the purchase order we have just created. In the reception of materials information section, we have to complete the number of reception order. In this case, let's suppose it's ROM0015. After that, we're going to change the reception date to the 26th of September. The field type is optional, but in this case, we're going to choose the materials option. Now, before we go any further, we should mention that it may occur that we receive items that aren't associated to a purchase order. If that was the case, we should complete the lines in order to indicate the detailed information of the items we are receiving. However, in this case, we do have a purchase order, so we're going to press the Receive Purchase Order button. A pop-up window will appear, listing all the purchase orders that are pending regardless of their date. The purchase orders we want to receive is the one that says 26th of September in the column Delivery Date. The purchase order indicated 50 units of iron and 3 units of white paint. As you may have noticed, there's a column named To Receive that has been highlighted in yellow. In this column, we have to indicate the amount we are receiving of each item. Also, there's a pending column. This column currently indicates that 100% of each item of the PU0015 purchase order are yet to be received, as we haven't indicated any amount in the To Receive column. But if we take a look at the other purchase orders, the amount that had been ordered was 1, and the received amount was 0.5. Therefore, the pending amount of those items is 0.5. If we indicate in the Received column a lesser amount than the one indicated in the Order column, it means it's a partial delivery. Consequently, we will have to receive the pending amount in the future. In this case, we're going to receive 100% of the items, so we're going to indicate 50 in the iron item and 3 in the item named white paint. Afterwards, we press Accept. Naturally, each item has been allocated according to the specifications indicated in the purchase order. If we decide to maintain the same information that has been indicated in the purchase order, that would be it. But in any case, you can always make the necessary alterations by selecting a different option in the allocation drop-down menu. Anyhow, the whole point of adding a purchase order is to save time when we create the reception of materials. Nevertheless, it could happen that we receive an item we haven't ordered. What do we do then? If we don't want to receive it, we don't have to do anything. But if we want to receive it anyways, since it's an item that we're going to use at some point, we add it using the lines available in the Lines tab. We also have the Taxes tab and the Additional Data tab that contains the information that had been initially added to the purchase order. If we want to, we can add more information or edit the current data. Once we're done, we press the Save button and automatically all the items have been allocated. Let's suppose we want to corroborate that the iron has been sent to the New York warehouse. We go to the Warehouses module and access the Warehouses submodule. In this screen, we can see a list of all our warehouses. We're going to select the Smith & Sons warehouse in New York. And as you can see, there are two options available: Stock and Inventory. We access the Stock option, and we're going to use the filter on top to check out whether the item iron appears in the list or not. To do so, we're going to change the date from the Stock to Date field to the 26th of September, and then press the magnifying glass icon in the colored ribbon. What do we have here? Well, the 50 kilograms of iron that we have just received. If we want to check out the detailed information of the item, we simply have to click on the field under the stock quantity column. As you can see, the initial stock was 0, and now it's 50, so the iron has been allocated correctly. The same process has been done by Brickcontrol to allocate the item white paint. Where can we check this out? We head to the Reports module, then to the Revenue Expenses submodule, and access to the Project Outcome option. In the filter located in the upper part of the screen, we're going to write down the name of our project. Change the date to 4th of November, and then press the magnifying glass icon. Automatically, the white paint item appears on the screen. If we go to the base currency tax base, we can see that the value indicated underneath, it's a negative value, since it represents an expense. As this is the only information we have added to Brickcontrol so far, it's the only thing we can visualize. Let's go back to the Reception of Materials screen and press the Save button. Now, we go to the last step of the process, which includes the purchase invoice of the materials we have just received. We head to the Revenues Expenses module, Expenses submodule, and we're going to access to the Purchase Invoices option from the drop-down menu. In the colored ribbon located in the top of the screen, next to the magnifying glass icon, we have the New Option button, which allows us to create a new purchase invoice. There are 3 different types of purchase invoice: invoice without items, invoice with items, or invoice with receipt of materials. Invoices without items refer to invoices in which we indicate the information in a condensed way by adding the total cost and a brief description, since we don't have quantifiable elements. There are no items, unlike the invoices with items that can be used in different ways. For example, we can create a purchase order, and instead of receiving a delivery receipt, we receive the purchase invoice directly. If that was the case, we don't go through the reception process. Another option would be to add a purchase invoice that isn't related to a purchase order, because we went to a store, bought the required items, and then added the purchase invoice to Brickcontrol. Finally, in case we have the purchase invoice corresponding to the reception of materials, we simply select the Invoice with Receipt of Materials option and complete the fields with the required information. We complete the date in which the invoice has been handed to us. Let's suppose it was the 30th of September. Then we add the invoice number, for example, INV0015. After that, we indicate the payment method. The default payment method is 15-day credit, as that's the method we indicated when we added the supplier. However, we can change it. In the type field, we can indicate whatever we want. Next, we're going to click on the Associate Reception of Materials button. A pop-up window will appear in which the reception of materials will be displayed. In this case, there's only one, since we received the total amount of materials. If the material had been partially delivered, for example, let's suppose we had received a bucket of paint today, and then the next day we received 2 additional buckets, and so on, all the available receptions would appear listed in the pop-up window. We press Accept, and automatically the reception has been added to the invoice. If we want to check the detailed information in regards to the reception of materials, we simply click on the name of the reception of materials under the number of reception of materials column. Moving forward to the other tabs, as you can see, there's a Due Dates tab in which we can visualize the due date of the invoice according to its date of creation and payment method. For example, since the payment method of this supplier is set to 15-day credit, Brickcontrol automatically calculates the due date considering the invoice's date of creation we had indicated is 30th of September. Anyways, remember we can change the payment method by choosing a different option from the drop-down menu. If we take a look at the additional information in the Due Dates tab, we can see the total amount of the invoice, as well as the type of payment. In this case, it's wire transfer, but we have other options available in the drop-down menu such as cash, check, etc. Also, there's a payment date column in which we have to complete the date once we have made the payment. If we haven't paid yet, then we leave this field blank. In this case, we're going to indicate 2nd of October as payment date and then press the Save button. However, there's a cash report in which we can visualize detailed information in regards to the invoices in order to oversee the invoices pending payment, as well as the invoices pending collection. Going back to our example, the other tabs available are taxes and additional data. We press the Save button again, and now we have completed the procurement process. What shall we do next? Well, let's not forget that as part of the procurement process, we can add timesheets. To do so, we're going to access the Timesheets option from the Expenses submodule located in the Revenue Expenses module. We click on the plus button and we can start adding the information of the employees assigned to the project. For example, we can say that on the 25th of September, Cole Alexander is going to work on the project Demo Brickcontrol. We can assign Cole to a specific level of the estimate, task, and resource, or we can simply assign him to a specific resource such as Official Worker 1 and press Accept. In the next column, we can add comments if we want to, but it's not mandatory. Now, we're going to complete the work hours. Let's suppose this employee has worked 2 standard work hours in this project in this specific task. We can also indicate overtime hours, night hours, holiday hours, among other expenses. We can add as many employees as needed. Keep in mind that in order to calculate the cost per employee, we have previously created the employee and assigned him or her a cost per hour for each type of work hour, as well as the category to which the employee belongs to. Therefore, as we have indicated that Cole Alexander had worked 2 standard hours in a Demo Brickcontrol project as Official Worker 1, Brickcontrol will automatically calculate the cost that the employee represents. Once we have finished completing the required information in this screen, we're going to move forward to the project progress. We go to the Projects module once again and access the Project Progress submodule. Since we're going to open an existing project, we click on the Open button and select the Demo Brickcontrol project. We are asked to select the date of the project progress. Let's assume we want a report until the 28th of September and press Accept. Subsequently, all the tasks of the estimate will be displayed, including the chapter or levels and all the other items that are part of the estimate. We can go to the electrical level, and as you can see, the planned work was set to 1 unit. In the percentage column, we can indicate, for example, 100%, and automatically the completed work column switches to 1, as we have completed 100% of the work. Now let's go to the paint chapter and then access the indoor paint sub-level. As you can see, we have the planned work, the remaining work, and the completed work. We can indicate any percentage, for example 30%, and automatically the completed work column and the remaining work column have been updated. Remember that the values indicated in the planned work column belong to the data obtained from the estimate. Also, you should bear in mind that the amount we have indicated in the completed work column corresponds to the work that has been done so far until the 28th of September, which is the date we have indicated in the filter settings. Let's see another example. In the task Living Room Paint, the planned work is 30 according to the estimate. And let's suppose we indicate the completed work represents 10 units. Automatically, the percentage has been updated to 33.33 and the remaining work to 20. As you can see, we can either indicate the progress in percentages or in units. If we go back to the main menu of the project progress, we can see that the overall percentage of the paint level has been updated to 31.05. For the following example, we're going to head to the site construction level, in which there are many tasks listed. And let's suppose that for efficiency purposes, we don't want to indicate the progress percentage or units one by one. So instead, we're going to use the Adjust Progress tool located in the colored ribbon in the upper part of the screen. Once we have clicked on the Adjust Progress Percentage button, a drop-down menu appears in which we can select whether we want to adjust only the current level and the lower levels, or the entire project. We're going to choose the option Current Level Only, write down 25% and press Accept. As you can see, automatically the progress percentage of all the tasks from the site construction level has been updated to 25. The remaining work is the subtraction of the planned work and the completed work. It is worth mentioning that Brickcontrol can distinguish that the project progress and the interim payment certification are two different things. The project progress contains the information that we add in regards to the work progress on site, whereas the interim payment certification states the amount of money that we're going to charge our client. This feature allows us to charge our client more money than the actual work progress or vice versa, depending on the type of arrangement we have made with our client. We're going to go back to the main screen of the project progress in order to print it. As you may have noticed, next to the print icon located in the colored ribbon, there's a button named Sync with Estimate. This feature comes handy when the project changes as it progresses due to the addition of tasks, changes in the cost price of materials or resources, and amendments in regards to the quantity of materials, etc. Therefore, it is always advisable to click on the Sync with Estimate button to make sure we always have our project progress up to date before printing. The following step is to create an interim payment certification. We're going to head to the Project module and access the Project Certification submodule. We press the Open button and select the Demo Brickcontrol Project Certification 1. In the field Date, we're going to indicate 30th of September and press Accept. In the following screen, we are asked to choose a project progress. In this case, since there's only one available, we're going to double-click on it to select it. As you can see, the information that has been displayed is the same as the one we had added in the project progress. However, if we go to the paint level and then access the indoor paint sub-level, we can see that there are two new columns. Also, we can visualize the completed work column as well as the planned work and remaining work columns. The new columns are named Certification and Previous Certification. In this case, if we want to certificate the work that has been completed so far, by default, Brickcontrol indicates the same amount of units as stated in the completed work column. Nevertheless, we can change the value from the certification column to, for example, 20. The completed work will remain the same regardless of the amount of units we intend to charge our client, since the work that has been done still represents 15 units. As well as if we want to charge our client a lesser amount of units than the ones indicated in the project progress. All of this depends on the arrangement we have made with our client. As you can see, there's another new column named Remaining Certification, in which the remaining value for the task Kitchen Paint is -5, as we are charging our client more units than the ones that have actually been executed. As a result, we don't have remaining units to charge, and furthermore, we have exceeded the amount of executed units. Therefore, the value is a negative one, -5. On the contrary, if we take a look at the living room paint task, the remaining certification value is a positive one, since in this case, we have indicated a lesser amount in the certification column than the amount of units that have actually been completed so far. To sum up, we would be undercharging our client. Finally, if we create an interim payment certificate that matches the completed work, no alterations are required. In any case, if we need to make some adjustments due to delayed works, etc., we simply have to repeat the procedure we have just seen. Another alternative would be to make the adjustments the same way we did in the project progress by using the Adjust Progress Percentage tool and choosing one of the following options: current level only, current level and lower levels, or entire certification. This feature comes in handy when we receive down payments. Usually, when we execute a project, we certify at least 70% of the work. We press Accept and automatically the progress percentage has been updated to 70% in entire certification. What does this mean? It means that once I send the certification to the client and the client approves it, I can send the invoice. Also, it means that regardless of the progress of each task, the client is going to pay us 70% of the total cost of each task. For example, if we go to the site construction level, the certification percentage is indeed 70. Nevertheless, the numeric value from the certification column is different from the one indicated in the completed work column, as the value in the certification column corresponds to the 70% of the planned work. If we go back to the main screen of the Project Certification submodule, we have the Additional Charges button to create the final page of our certification. As you can see, a pop-up window opens in which the information in regards to the estimate appears. In case we want to add lines, we have to repeat the same procedure we have implemented when adding lines to the final page of the estimate by pressing the New Line button. Keep in mind that we have to indicate the tax information in the last line. Once we're done, we click the Save button and then the Print button located on the colored ribbon. We select a template and then press the Print button. This is the document that the client will receive, in which he or she can visualize all the information. If the client decides to approve the certification, the next step is to proceed with the invoicing. To do so, we go to the Expenses Revenues module, then to the Revenue submodule, and access the Payment Certificates option from the drop-down menu. We press the Open button located in the colored ribbon and choose the Demo Brickcontrol project, Certification 1, and press Accept. As you can see, a summary of the certification that contains the information related to each of its divisions and tasks is displayed in the current screen. If we go to the Divisions tab located underneath the colored ribbon, we can see the total amount that represents 100% of the certification. And if we click on the arrow icon, a drop-down menu appears in which the detailed information in regards to each subdivision is displayed. Finally, in the Invoicing tab, the additional charges information is displayed as part of the certification's last page. In case we forgot to add relevant information concerning the additional charges, we can click on the New Line button and add the needed information. In the field Payment Method, we're going to press the magnifying glass icon and a pop-up window will appear in which all the available payment methods are listed. We're going to choose the 90-day credit option, which means our client will have a period of 90 days to make the payment. This information will appear in the invoice. Once we're done, we press the Save button and then the Print button so that we can send the invoice to our client afterwards. Now, one of the last topics of this demonstration is the cost analysis feature. To learn more about it, we're going to go to the Project module and access the Cost Analysis submodule. We're going to press the Open button and a pop-up window will appear in which we will be asked to complete the required information. In this case, the name of the project contains the word Demo, and the company that will execute the project is Smith & Sons. Once we have set the search filters, in the second section of the window, we can see a drop-down list in which the Demo Brickcontrol project is displayed. Remember that we could see multiple projects at the same time if we wanted to. So, if we delete the filter we have established in regards to the name of the project, all the projects that the company Smith & Sons is currently executing will be listed and we could select more than one. In this case, we're going to select the Demo Brickcontrol and move forward to the third section, in which we are asked to indicate the cost analysis period. The field From is optional. If we don't specify any date, by default, the software will consider the 1st of January of the year 1, while the To field is mandatory. Let's suppose we want to analyze the costs of this particular project until the 1st of December of 2022. As you may have noticed, the information displayed contains data until the 28th of September as indicated in the column named To, instead of the date we indicated when we set the different filters a few minutes ago. Why does this happen? Well, the reason this occurs is that the date of the last project progress we have added is the 28th of September 2022. And since the software has no information about the other periods remaining until the 1st of December 2022, it displays the available information. The standard cost column displays the information from the project progress until the 28th of September. The actual cost column displays the data in regards to the allocated costs. Bear in mind that as this is a demonstration, we haven't allocated many of the actual costs. Therefore, the more detailed information we add, the more similar the values from the standard cost column and the actual cost column will become. It's worth noting that regardless of the date we indicate in the column named To, if Brickcontrol doesn't have data for the selected period, it will look for the closest project progress available and display its information. To sum up, if we want to create a cost analysis report that includes data until the 1st of December, first, we have to add project progress information up to that time. If we take a look at the bottom of the screen, we have two references, period and origin. In this case, since we have added only one project progress, the information from the period columns matches the one in the origin columns. If we click on the arrow button located next to the name of the project, we can see the information grouped by different categories such as labor, equipment, material, and general expenses. Also, we can visualize the information related to the standard costs and actual costs of each category. As you can see, some values have been added in the actual cost column, while the project progress has clearly surpassed the allocated costs. However, as we have already explained, we have added a few data solely for the purpose of explaining Brickcontrol's features as part of the demo. Also, we should keep in mind that the level of detail of the information we can access depends on how specific we have been when allocating the costs. For example, if we have allocated the costs to the project, we'll be able to compare only the standard costs versus the actual costs. Therefore, if we have allocated the costs to a division and then to specific tasks or resources, we will be able to access to more detailed information. In this case, if we hadn't allocated costs to certain resources, we wouldn't be able to compare the information with this level of detail, as Brickcontrol wouldn't know the specific allocation of the materials we've bought or the workers we have assigned to the project, etc. If we want to take a look at the deviation analysis report, we simply have to double-click on one of these items and a pop-up window will appear. The next thing we have to do is click on the Variance Report button. In the following screen, we can visualize all the items we have promptly added to the project progress. As you may have noticed, in the columns related to the actual values, there's almost no information. You might be wondering why this has happened. Well, the reason it occurred is because we didn't add any actual cost to these items, except for the white paint item. So if we go to that specific item, we can see that we had anticipated we had to paint 1.5 units of kitchen paint to this date. And the cost price of each unit required to complete this task had been estimated at €11. Nevertheless, we can see that according to the information indicated in the columns that contain the actual values, 3 units were required to complete the task at a price of €12 each. This means that there was a deviation because instead of purchasing 1.5 units of paint to paint the kitchen, we have actually bought and used 3 units of paint. So there was a deviation of 1.5 units of paint, which means we have overspent. Additionally, there was a cost price deviation, as the anticipated cost per unit was €11 and we have spent €12 per unit. As a result, if we compare the total cost indicated in the column standard value, which is €16.5, versus the total cost indicated in the column actual value, which is €36, there was a deviation of €19.5. In order to understand what caused the deviation, we can take a look at the detailed information of the purchase. As you can see, the supplier was BBC Inc. The amount of units that have been purchased are 3. And the cost price we have paid for each one of the units is €12. But what can we do with this information? Well, we can contact the person that made the purchase in order to ask for explanations. Therefore, we can oversee deviations and apply corrective measures to prevent or reverse them in time. Anyways, there will always be deviations during the execution of a project. There can be positive and negative deviations. However, the idea is that we can identify deviations in time so that they don't affect our profits in a negative way. This means that when we compare the costs of our project alongside its deviations, the actual cost should be equal to the standard cost or even cheaper. If that's not the case, then it means that we are spending our profits. For example, if we go to the labor category and open the variance report, we can see that in the item Official Worker 1, 7.5 hours were indicated as required to complete this task, while we have allocated only 2 hours. So either this task was completed within 2 hours, which means we have spent less money than what we had anticipated, because even though the cost per hour is higher, the amount of hours that have actually been worked are fewer than the ones indicated in the estimate. Or the cost allocation is complete and we need to add another employee to complete the task. Assuming that due to his or her abilities, the person that was assigned to the task was able to complete it in 2 hours, we have saved 87.5 euros. If we take a further look at the detailed information in regards to this task, we can see that the employee that has been assigned to it is called Alexander, who has worked 2 hours in this task on the 25th of September. It could happen that the work hasn't been completed since Cole had to leave early due to a personal inconvenience. We can have access to detailed information to gain insight. Finally, the last topic of this demonstration is the project analysis feature. We're going to go to the project module and access the project analysis submodule. By doing so, we will automatically be redirected to the web version of Brickcontrol. In a new screen, we can see the different types of filters we can apply, such as currency, type, subtype, company, and project. These filters will affect the way the information is grouped for visualization purposes, according to the information from the estimate. Remember that the project analysis tool can only be used with ongoing projects. For example, if we want to see the projects that have been grouped in the American dollars category, we press the button that contains the arrow in order to expand the information. As you can see, the projects are also grouped in different categories called private and public. If we expand the private category, the subcategories inside of it are listed. If we expand one of the subcategories, then the companies responsible for those works are listed. Finally, if we expand the information of each company, we can see the projects that have been assigned to them. Let's take a look at the summary of each project, in which we can visualize the offer estimate cost, the control estimate cost, and the final estimated cost in order to compare them. The offer estimate is the estimate we send our client at the very beginning of the project. The control estimate is the one that will suffer alterations as the project progresses. As you may have noticed, in this case, the offer estimate is way much cheaper than the control estimate. Also, we have more information in regards to expenses, sales, and profits. If we want to filter the information, we can select the option that most suits us. In this case, we're going to choose the sale option. Then we can choose the profit option and so on. On the other hand, let's suppose that we want to ungroup the information. We simply have to click on the Ungroup Information button located on the upper part of the screen. If we want to group the information again, we click on the Group Information button. In order to take out the information of a specific project, we click on it. As you can see, the data from the General Information section is exactly the same as the information we were able to visualize in the previous screen. However, the information has been organized in a different way. Also, in this screen, we can visualize detailed information about the project, complemented with graphics that make it easier to understand, read, and compare numbers and data. If we scroll down, we have specific information in regards to the sales and costs associated to the project. This means that we can see cost allocation details. So, which items can be found under the sales category? Well, the items listed under the sales category include extraordinary invoices, also called sales invoices, and interim payment certification invoices. Also, we have information about the invoices that have been issued, the interim payment certifications that haven't been invoiced yet, and so on. In regards to the costs category, we have information about all the allocated costs, such as invoices with and without items, timesheets, delivery receipts, etc. In conclusion, we have a summary of the expenses and revenues of the project up to this date. Additionally, if we scroll down again, there's a chart that contains information that allows us to compare the data from the current year versus previous years, in case the development of the project took several years. At the bottom of the screen, we can see a comparison between the real progress versus the initial planning. In this case, there's no information to display as we haven't added information to the project related to real progress, planning, etc. Usually, this information comes in handy when managers want to oversee the project. Take into account that if we print the report, automatically the information will be condensed in order to fit the printable area. Also, the way the information is organized may vary so that the information can be displayed in a simpler way. Firstly, we can see the general information chart complemented with graphics. Then we have the sales chart next to the costs chart in order to be able to compare the information. In the following page, we can visualize the graphic information related to costs and sales. And finally, in the remaining pages, we can see information about project progress over the years and a comparison between the real progress versus the initial planning. This way, managers can check out an overview of the project with real-time information. Well, looks like that's a wrap for the Brickcontrol demo. Thanks for joining us.